So part of raising cows is dealing with guys like this one behind me. He's not doing too well. He won't put on weight. Can't quite figure out why. We've got him on feed as well as a good quality hay, and just doesn't seem to want to put on weight. Part of it's the breed. They are a little bit harder to put on weight sometimes, but we'll get him there. It's just going to take us a minute to work some meat on his bones. But the problem that you run into right now is they start getting bloat when their digestive system's not working quite right. He's probably wormy. So, and this is one of the reasons why we don't advertise and that we don't get certified in all these different, grass-fed only, stuff like that. Because, by the way, grass-fed only, there's basically ways of them doing that in the feedlot if they do them alfalfa pellets. So it's not exactly what you think. But so we always tell everybody we ethically raise our animals and we run them on pasture. And then when we have guys like this that go down, we've never guaranteed that we won't use corn, because it's one of the fastest ways to get some meat on their bones is to give these guys some corn when they're like this. And so he'll get some corn and some grains and stuff in him to help his health a little bit until we can get him to butcher. Now this guy, he bloated, and he's bloated on us a couple times now, about 2 or 3 times. And if the bloat's not real bad, about the easiest way you can deal with it is a little bit of water and baking soda, and put it in a water bottle and get him to drink it. He drank about half this morning, and it calms her stomach down quite a bit. And so he's good now. He's up eating, but he's still skinny. He may go down again, but we ended up having to worm him today. And y'all know we don't like to worm our cows unless we have to. This is one of those times where we have to. We don't worm preemptively. We worm if we have a problem. And he's probably got worms, part of the reason why he's not putting on any weight. So we got to get him under control. So he's separated over here. Still a little bit of grazing back behind me. So that's why you see the cow back there. But this reminded me of this article that Amanda Lynn had sent me about wheat. And the reason it reminded me is because you have all these different grains and grasses and stuff being ground up for your animal, for your livestock feeds. And so what we've realized is that, as the prices of these things continue to go up, the cost of your meat production is going to go up. It used to be that we paid quite a bit more for non-GMO feed, for a mixed feed that was non-GMO sunflower seed meal, and that was substantially more expensive than what you could get like corn for. And why we charged more for our pigs is because they were being fed better. They were better tasting, and that made a substantial difference. And that's losing some of its case now, because we're still paying about the same for that high-end feed. But I just checked on the prices of corn to get him up on corn, and I don't stay too much up on corn, but corn was $380 a ton for whole corn. And last time I purchased corn, it was just over half that. So the corn has gone up exponentially. And I haven't priced it around, so it just kind of alerted me, because like I said, I don't buy a lot of corn. So I don't know if that's specific to that store or what exactly is going on. But that store, specifically that store, it was about $200 a ton a couple years ago. So the feed prices are going up. And then now we get this from Yahoo News, right? And so by the time it reaches Yahoo News, we know it's too late. By the time it's in the mainstream, it's too late. And Yahoo News posted an article, and I'll post it down below, that basically what it's saying is that the farmers in the breadbasket, right, the plain states that grow all the wheat and the corn and everything, that they're planting into dirt with low fertility because they've never organically farmed it. They've just mined all the organic matter over the last 100 years. So there's nothing natural in there for them to grow. So they have to use a chemical fertilizer, a petroleum-based fertilizer. And they're short on these fertilizers, or the fertilizers have gone up, so where they can't afford it at the current prices. And then we're seeing the demand increase and the supply decrease, where we have areas like the Black Sea areas that can't ship out because of the conflict in Ukraine. Ukraine provided, I believe it was 25% of the world's overall grain production, and then Russia made up a substantial portion of that as well. So the bottom line is that grains are going to go up, and the grains exponentially affect everything else, and that's the problem that we're running into with this. So I want you guys to consider that, and consider that the cost of these things are astronomically going to increase. Now might be a time to buy some wheat berries if you haven't done so. Put some in a 5-gallon bucket and just have them on hand so you can make some bread. Obviously, got to have a way to grind them, but Dad used to tell me. I remember they used to take the wheat berries and you just soak them in milk and put a little sugar on them, and that was their cereal when he was growing up. He grew up on kind of a old school dirt floor farm, and so the fact is that the grains are going to become more and more substantial. Okay, now we move on to the next issue that we saw, where we just saw right outside of Dallas, Texas. They had an issue with GPS, and GPS simultaneously for everybody went down. And I don't know if they actually figured out why yet, but I'll post the article down below that Madeline sent to me yesterday or the day before, and y'all can read it. But I believe at the time of the writing they didn't know why it all went down, but they may have updated that since then. It doesn't really matter. The fact is that we think about GPS as something that's kind of a modern day convenience. We think about GPS as a way of doing business, but we also have to consider that GPS has sped up the way that we do business. So let's just take, for example, a realtor. A realtor 50 years ago, before there was GPS, they were having to map out and figure out how to do all this stuff and how to go to these different houses. There was substantially more time. And because we added GPS into it, it takes less time. They don't have to map it out to the same extent anymore. They just MapQuest a couple of them and move on. Well, because of that technology, it has sped up other things in our life, right? So the fact is that the GPS made it easier in that sense, but then all of a sudden now we're showing more houses and we're taking more time with the client to do that stuff, and so that's just one nuance of how GPS affects the daily life, and think about how much you use it. And then I want you to think about it from this standpoint too. All the new whiz-bang tractors out there, right? Every Plowmaster 25,000 that John Deere puts out every year, or Kubota or whoever, they all use GPS tracking in them now. And they can all run fields basically without an operator because they're all GPS coordinated to run up and down these fields. And they even have smart ones that don't require an operator at all, though I think they're substantially expensive, that a lot of farmers aren't using them yet. But the fact is that GPS is something that we rely on every day. And we rely on it in more ways than just the conveniences of driving to your buddy's house. We rely on it for the speed of business. We relied on it for automation technology. And as these issues become more prevalent and happen more and more, for whatever reasons, it's going to continue to affect our logistics, right? Actually having to again waste more time because they have to go back to the old school way of doing it. You have a whole generation of people that don't even know how to use map and compass. So the fact is that all of these, we've become so reliant on the technology that now without it, it's very difficult for us to run our businesses and run our operations, not ours, but I mean ours is in society, without it. And so I want you guys to consider that and to consider what is coming forward for us over the next 2 or 3 years. And I think that substantial food shortages next year are well within our realm. And are virtually guaranteed at this point in time. Price hikes are certainly guaranteed. If shortages aren't, then price hikes certainly are. And with that comes Congress's input on it, which is always bad. The moment the government gets their hands involved with anything, it always goes from bad to worse. This is not going to get fixed anytime soon. This is not going to get fixed overnight, certainly. So be certain that you guys are putting a little bit of food away. Be certain that you're tracking these issues. We put as much as we can out here, but we're not a news channel, right? I mostly like to talk about homesteading stuff, but the news things get better views, so we kind of get forced to do that. But I do have a video coming out about chickens here on next week, about some new feed. So if you're interested at all in that, look it up. But anyways, guys, it's just kind of funny. We started out as a homesteading channel, but now people come here for all the news stuff. There's better channels for the news stuff. Economic Ninja is great about posting that stuff. I can't compete with him doing 4 or 5 videos a day, all on just the latest and greatest stuff. So I wanted this to be centered around homesteading and preparing your farms and your livelihoods for what's coming. I want you guys to keep this all in mind. The last thing I want to tell you guys about is a little quick story about what happened to us. We had a blowout on the interstate the other day in our truck. Now, I just bought 6 brand new tires for that truck, so they're less than a year old. and we had a blowout on this tire. And I don't know exactly what happened. Couldn't figure it out. The tire was shredded, so couldn't figure out exactly what happened. I assumed something damaged the sidewall on it because I didn't see anything on the track, or at least the track that was remaining. And so I had to call my mechanic and get new tires. And that tire, when I bought it, I don't remember what it was. It was around $200 a tire. That tire now, for this exact same tire, is $380 a tire. So that is a substantial increase on the price. And tires, again, they're, what's going into that? Well, it's the price of the rubber, the price of the petroleum, the price of the shipping, everything coming up. And I don't think those will come back down because there's not enough demand for them to. So the fact is that when you need tires, you need tires. So I want you guys to keep that in mind too, that we're seeing substantial price increases on things that we don't necessarily think about every day, but that certainly have an effect on our budget at the end of the year. If I had to put all 6 tires on this truck, because it's a dually on the rear end, it would have been pretty pricey, right, to put all 6 new tires on that. 7 if you include the spare. So, and I always keep a good quality spare on all my vehicles because I'm going to be driving with this now for 2 weeks with a spare tire on the front, simply because they can't even get the tire in for almost 2 weeks. So guys, bottom line is, stay prepared, stay vigilant out there, realize what's coming. We will have more stuff on the farm. I always like to throw these little tidbits in at the beginning. But if you've made it this far, do me a favor, put a comment down there. That helps the algorithm a ton. And make sure, I'm sure, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, already do so, but definitely like the videos. It does really help us out. And I will catch y'all later.